the quality of life under communism was fairly low, and availability of consumer goods was limited, and prices were continuously increasing. But what was even more, I believe, significant for the condition of life in communist societies was the very low degree of choice. Choice as a value was very strictly suppressed. The idea was that of uniformity. People should share the same lifestyle. In the early stage of communism, when Joseph Stalin was still in power, and well, there were very orthodox communist regimes in power in satellite states, even very innocent expressions of individualism in the form of the way one liked to dress, or would be restricted, would be suppressed, would be seen as not accepting the principles of the new society. Generally, societies were supposed to develop shared, modest, and rather grey lifestyle without any, if possible, individualism. So the idea of uniformity was ever present. Of course, the lack of choice applied to political life. There was no choice in elections. There was no choice in choosing representatives. There was no choice of political programs or ideologies. Only one possibility was available. Only one program was available. Only one set of candidates was available. And to the extent that the idea of choosing among different programs, among different candidates, was presented as an unnecessary waste of energy. Why should we spend time choosing among different programs, among different candidates, rather than accepting the one that was proposed by those who knew better? So the idea of choice in politics, of course, did not exist. But similarly, there was very little choice of the lifestyle. The idea of plenty did not include the idea of diversity. Diversity was not part of the concept of availability of goods, of plenty. When, in the Polish case, when car industry began to develop in the 1970s, everybody, of course, was dreaming of being able to buy a car for the family. It was a dream of many, most people, but practically nobody was thinking about this chances of getting a car in terms of choosing a brand, which brand of car I would like to have. Availability of cars that people were dreaming of was seen as everybody having the same car, but everybody being able to acquire one. So the Fiat factories produced cars in Poland, and Dacia was produced in Romania, and everybody was driving a Dacia, everybody who could buy a car. So the idea of diversity was not part of this dream, was not part of this concept of availability and plenty. Generally speaking, if goods were available in shops, usually only one kind of good of a particular category was available. Simple consumer goods, coffee, tea, whatever else people wanted to buy, if available at all, usually in one kind, one brand only. So after communism, it was very clear that one of the problems that citizens had with a newly introduced market economy was not that goods were not available, because it began to be available, and not even the prices, but how to choose from among a diverse offer. They were not used to choosing. Choice was not part of the lifestyle. That was seen in all aspects of life. People who worked in wealthy branches of industry, they could benefit from holiday resorts owned by their factories. People who worked in poorer branches of economy had only at their disposal much more modest holiday resorts that belonged to their offices or factories or enterprises. But it was very, most people could not choose, or at least it was much cheaper to go to a holiday resort owned by your own working place. Therefore, again, going for holiday was not a matter of choice, but it was a matter of being given a place in the holiday resort which your factory, your office happened to own. So again, even in such a apparently very individual decision regarding how you want to spend your holidays, even in this, one could not really choose according to one's own preferences, but was either the only possibility or the most economical possibility was to take the offer which was given to you by your place of work. Also, workers were also, especially those who worked in heavy industry business, they had access to special shops which also belonged to their factories. So they didn't even buy in the open market. The necessities. They would go to their own shops, to their own holiday resorts, their own hospitals, and so on. So, in other words, one can say that choice in general, choice as the value, which is one of the guiding principles of of society and social life, was very heavily suppressed, and there's no doubt that it was not accidental, that it was part of the idea of how to keep society under control and how to prevent societies from rebelling against the communist dictatorship. If one is not able to choose, if one is not able to think about making a choice between different offers, between different possibilities, then such a society is much more safe. And I would always remember a television short interview with people in the street in Russia before one of the first elections in post-communist Russia, and an elderly gentleman asked about his voting preferences, his choice, and he said that he probably would not vote at all, because not only it was a problem for him to vote, but the additional problem is that he had to choose on which party to vote, and he couldn't understand why he was expected to make such a difficult choice, while life was so much easier when he knew for whom to vote. So just as I believe that choice is one of the most fundamental principles and values of a democratic society, thus as I believe that the lack of choice, the elimination of choice, was one of the most important, most significant characteristics of the communist society, alongside oppression, alongside control, alongside poverty and scarcity of goods and services, and the overall feeling of hopelessness and helplessness